When's the last time that you looked at a video game map? No, I mean really looked at it. You found something you just had to check out. Or maybe you were really trying to remember exactly where the Yellowjack is.
Select map.
Maps are a navigational tool used by many adventurers, criminals, and hitmen. But they're not only a tool for video game protagonists, they also serve as a tool for the players, to help immerse them into the worlds they'll hopefully be spending hours in. I used to flip through the World Atlas we kept on the shelf all the time when I was a kid. I freaking loved that thing. And when I found out that Vice City came with a giant fold-out map, you best bet that that map was always sitting out right next to me every time I played. These maps were a huge part of the GTA physical releases all the way through GTA 5, and I'm really excited to get my hands on the new GTA 6 map, if there is one. Now, if only the in-game maps looked as good as the printed ones. Real quick, I want to say I had a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by April, and we've already hit it, which is crazy. Thank you so much for the support, it really means a lot. Let's try to shoot for 1,500 by April. I know that's a tall order, but I think we can do it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure you're first to watch when I drop a new video. Thanks! Over the years, I've spent way too long just looking around and searching different game maps. But I want to share some of the cool stuff I found. Now, let me be clear when I say maps. I don't mean the entire playable space that the game fills, like all of the mountains, trees, and caves. I'm talking about how those beautiful mountains and caves are represented on the in-game map. These maps can often be overlooked and just seen as a necessary asset to any modern game, but sometimes they can add so much more to the experience. There are a ton of different types of maps, but let's start with the large open world maps that you can find in pretty much any AAA game from the last 10 years or so. From the highest mountain peaks and towers down to the dark valleys and inlets, these maps can give us a wonderful look at the full scale of the world we're adventuring in. Tons of games have maps like these, everything from Just Cause 4 to Horizon Zero Dawn. Hell, even every racing game has a map like this nowadays. But I want to take a close look at the map in Far Cry 5. I love the way that this map captures depth. It's clear that this map is actually a physical model. It looks as if you could almost reach out and brush your hands along the trees. You can rotate the camera around a bit just to capture better angles of the forests. It's just so cool. I could easily spend an hour just looking around the map. When we zoom out to the top-down view, we lose a lot of the charm and character. The camera rotation allows us to get a much better view and understanding of the space that the world around us takes up. It reminds me of the isometric angle that we've seen since the very early days in games like Q*bert and Marble Madness, all the way to more modern games like Hades and Minecraft Dungeons. In fact, this is one area where I felt Far Cry 6 really missed. They went with a much more stylized top-down approach. It's a printed map that's been drawn on with red and blue lines to mark the different safe and dangerous areas for the Revolution. While fitting to the plot, I don't think it's as fun to explore. Plenty of games use a more realistic satellite-type image like this, but some games go for a way more stylized look. In fact, one of the best all-time maps is highly stylized, Red Dead Redemption 2. Talk about enhancing the player's submersion into the game. As you take out bandits and sit around the campfire, you'll be using your map a ton to plan out your activities and see where you're going. When you open the map, you're shown a beautiful late 19th century style map that shows all the major paths, railroads, and rivers. And everything is labeled with beautiful timely fonts that all overlap each other, just like the maps of the time. I really like the almost imperfectness of it. Every road is not an exact one-to-one perfect representation of the world. I don't know if that really makes sense, but I think you know what I mean. It is 1899 after all. Of course there's going to be a few mistakes on the map. It's all about immersion. Scattered along the map are little drawings of animals giving hints of where you'll need to go to find certain pelts. There are handwritten notes that might be a reminder of an old friend of Arthur's or where something significant happened in his life. You can see how Saint Denis is one of the first more developed cities and how it plans on growing as the world changes with the turn of the century. As I was looking around the map, I wanted to find a new place to explore. So I searched around and found an interesting looking lake that has a couple rivers flowing into it. I hopped on my horse and started the long journey to the lake. When I got there, it was halfway frozen over, and I was able to just walk out onto the ice and admire the beautiful mountain lake that I had never paid attention to before. It does a great job at using style and design to expand upon the gameplay. Plenty of games do this too, like Shadow of the Colossus. This map has a hand-drawn fantasy design to it akin to old fairy tale books, which is perfect for a game about a lone warrior traveling around and fighting mythological giants. One map you're given in Dead Rising, a game about being stuck in a mall during a zombie apocalypse, is a mall map that looks like you picked it up from the information center. It's perfect. Maps aren't merely representations of the virtual space. I know that's confusing, but let me explain. Sometimes maps are used as level hubs and indicate where in the overworld a level takes place, meaning a level placed in or near water might mean that it's a beach or underwater level. I'm not telling you anything new, but these maps can serve as immersion too. Games like Donkey Kong Country and Cuphead come to mind. The first time you enter the hub in Cuphead, you already get a sense of the game's unique style. It's just beautiful to look at. The watercolors, the simple, cute animations. This is a lovely map. Using a map for the level hub isn't a new idea though. Going back to a childhood favorite, Super Mario Bros. 3 was iconic for this. The idea of turning the level selection into a map is a choice Nintendo made that has carried all the way through the most recent Mario entry, Mario Wonder. Even though this is just a level selection, it is a big part of what I remember about this game. World 1 gets us familiar with the land with plenty of cute sprites like mushroom houses and dancing shrubbery. When we enter World 2, we see how the map is truly utilized. We're thrown into the desert with a world full of burning sands, dancing trees, and giant pyramids. This theming continues throughout the game as we venture into the various themed worlds: Iceland, Skyland, Darkland, each of them filled with little clues of what you'll encounter in the levels. But as we zoom in from full world maps to level hubs, let's zoom in just a little more and talk about level maps. Most of the time, if there's a level map, it's a mini-map, like in the Spyro remakes, and we've seen endless mini-maps in old racing games. Nintendo has made individual maps a few times, like the dungeon maps in Breath of the Wild that almost look like blueprints. And the brochure-style maps of Mario Odyssey are super clean, use great colors, and have a unique design. On the sides, there's some basic stats about the kingdom, with information panels detailing all the different areas or enemies to watch out for. They're disguised as being local sights to see, but the real purpose is to highlight some of the more memorable parts of the level and possibly serve as a hint of where to go if you need a bit of guidance. Throw a simple pastel map in the middle with some icons to guide you along the way, and you've got yourself another lovely map. But my favorite level maps have to be the ones in Doom Eternal. While not perfect scale models of the level, it's a pretty accurate, very cool view that gives a ton of information. You can easily see the verticality of the level, which gives you hints on where things are hidden and ideas on how to get them. The green on the map shows where in the level you've been and where you still have more to explore, which is helpful if you're missing just a couple of things or get entirely lost. And just like in Far Cry 5, we can swivel the camera around to see some things that maybe we couldn't see before. For a map lover and collectible freak like myself, this map is perfect. It offers just enough guidance, but still lets you explore without knowing what's coming next or the exact solution to get that last figurine. The map still resembles the original maps from classic Doom, but they've been built up through decades of minor improvements. The last type of map that I want to mention is the Metroid-style maps that are very common in Metroidvania and roguelike games. These maps are laid out in a grid and normally have a side view, meaning that moving up the map is done by moving vertically, not north. But I would also throw in maps like the one in Binding of Isaac in here too. Even though you're moving directionally, the map still follows the same idea. Rooms or areas you haven't visited will either be grayed out or invisible until you visit them. And sometimes items will be represented by an icon or a dot in the grid space. A game where I really used this type of map was Axiom Verge 2. It does a really good job of showing how you can get to the new rooms via the colored borders separating all of the areas. There's even a coordinate system. When you get further in the game, you're able to switch between two versions of the map to possibly see different paths to take. The detail of the pixel art along with the borders let this map be a surprisingly good tool to plan out where you're going and how you're going to get there. When doing research for this video, I found a few games that had amazing map systems that I was completely unaware of, and I really want to go back and check them out. Apparently I need to dust off the old 360 because they say the map for Dead Space was really innovative for horror games. I would also be interested if anybody knows of any games that are out or being developed based on maps or map making. Of course I know about GeoGuessr, and I know there are a ton of city sims. I've put my time into City Skylines too. There's also a game called Map, a game about maps being worked on by Pipapo Games, so I'm gonna keep my eye out on that one to see where it goes. But if there are any more out there that you know of, please leave a comment below and I'd love to check it out. Go check out some maps. The next time you play a game, look at the map and see how it's used to make the gameplay better. Sometimes it's the way it's implemented, sometimes it's the design, and sometimes it's truly just about looking at the trees. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!